Welcome to Education Talks. I'm David Burke. Nitsa Anastasiades' journey in education has taken her across 11 countries, teaching early years in English language and literature, experiences that have deeply informed her writing. She's the author of Our Foreign Borders, Hamster, Rats and Other Stuff Going On, and Sea with Salty Water, which explore themes of identity, displacement, and human connection through the lens of her diverse teaching and living experiences. Well, Nitsa, welcome to Education Talks. Thanks for being here. Where are you joining us from?
I'm in sunny Cyprus at the moment. So yeah, I've just been for a swim and it's beautiful weather. So yeah, I'm here. I've repatriated actually. I've come back home after years of travel in Asia, the Middle East, Europe. It's been a great journey. So yeah, it's interesting. It wasn't planned, but here we are in Cyprus and I'm looking forward to new things, new experiences. It's going to be good.
Fantastic. Well, 11 countries, is that correct?
Yes, indeed. I mean, I don't know if you know, David mentioned it before. I was born and raised in the UK to Cypriot immigrants who fled Cyprus in the late 1950s and raised their family there, which is actually the book that we can talk about that later, but it's the book. We don't often plan things, but this is probably the reason why we've repatriated, I guess, so that I can really delve into the research for this particular book. But yes, to say it very succinctly, I was born in the UK and in the 90s, I believe, yes, early 90s, we decided to come to Cyprus. I had two little girls. I was pregnant with my son. We just wanted to leave the UK and try life over here so that my kids could learn the language, the culture. We were here for a couple of years and we met some expats who were working in Bahrain, and they said there was a Greek community there also. So we went basically 3 years in Bahrain. After that, we came back to Cyprus. And we've been to many, many countries since, coming back and going back and forth, etc. Yeah. Many, many countries: Malaysia, Saudi Arabia, Nigeria, Zambia, Dubai, Mumbai, Delhi, Riyadh, Kosovo. That's right. So all these experiences that we have had, I've been writing, you see, and put them in a collection for my book. So it's been great actually, teaching and traveling and having the kids with us as well. It's been an immense education for them. So they're all over the world. I've got my daughter living in Cyprus now, which is fantastic. She's a counseling psychologist with her kids here. So that's great. My son's in Dubai. He's also in teaching. And my other daughter's in Dubai in teaching as well. So we're an education family. Yeah.
That's wonderful. And so you were teaching in international schools. What were you teaching, just for the audience?
Well, initially I was an early years specialist. I began my career in early years education, which was great. And from then I transitioned when we were in Saudi Arabia in the 2000s. I took some time out. My girls went to university in the UK. My son was still with us in Saudi Arabia in Al Khobar. And I took some time out and I did English language and literature degree. I'd always been interested, in literacy. I'd always had a leading role in literacy and reading, and in the classroom and across the school. I became literacy coordinator. I was fascinated and loved it, so I did the degree in linguistics and literature, and then transitioned. And I thought, oh, wouldn't it be wonderful then to teach secondary students? So I did a PGCE with Buckingham, an online one where part going to the UK and part online. And I began teaching that. So really interesting, the very little ones and then the older ones. But it was lovely engaging with the material, because with the younger ones, I actually love because you get that instant feedback. But it's always to do with literature, actually, the rewards that you get when the language, the reading, just seeing them develop linguistically, the communication skills they develop through the story. And equally similar with the older ones, being able to debate at a higher level, in the classroom in a safe space about all sorts of themes and issues, which I explore again in my writing. But this is something I think, kids need a lot, lots of talk. What with technology at the moment, as we know, everybody moans about their faces in the screens, etc. Laptop shut, guys, we're going to just chat. Oh, okay. What do you think? How about you? And then, just in a relaxed way, I think literature is powerful, extremely powerful. The story, introducing kids to a whole new world, and just getting them to sort of, the quiet ones, even the really gifted ones who often don't talk, and just discussion is fascinating. I think it was who was it? Teacher Man, the Irish author Frank McCourt, who said, "If you are not learning when you're teaching, you are not teaching." Something to that effect. And I thought, wow, when I read that book, that is true. And I've put that on my CV, and that's my mantra, because I can't, teaching it's interesting. I love it for the social aspect. I love the interaction, developing the kids, the discussions, and being a literature lover, of course, this is a great pathway to get them to give them confidence in speaking about their issues, their world, their culture, sharing it through presentations, through discussions. It's really, really, really powerful. Yeah.
And so now you're a full-time author, and
Yes.
I just wonder if you can perhaps sort of share with us the sort of the change from teacher to author. How did that sort of evolve? How did that come about?
It was simultaneous, actually, because I've always written, I've always enjoyed writing, I've always bought notebooks, and from a very early age, I had to decide, right now I'm going to be an author. When I did my, like I said, when I took a year out to do the English language and literature degree, there was a creative writing component, and it was life writing, and we had to produce fast with each other online, share experiences from our youth, an early memory, this, that, whatever. And it was a great big thick, actually, creative writing book, and we produced lots of small pieces, and I left them. I collected them, I left them. It's really like a pastime. And even when I was teaching, during my breaks, I would write. It was my relaxation. I'd stay in the classroom. I was a pastoral leader. I remember in Dubai, for an international school, leader of literacy again, and a pastoral leader for year 5. And the kids, I would just stay in the classroom. Kids would come in, and ask me about, oh, miss, whatever issues they had with their friends, etc. And I'd be, it was my relaxation writing. And I collected all these pieces. And then a few years ago, I did a master's with Edinburgh in creative writing. And for that, again, whilst I was teaching, and for that, we had to obviously produce a portfolio of work, a dissertation. And I didn't actually sit and decide, right, I'm going to write this, or I'm interested in these themes. It didn't work out like that. It was basically experiences traveling through borders, through countries, because obviously when you're an expat and you live abroad and you work abroad, you travel a lot as well, as you know, within that country. When we were in Malaysia, we went to lots of different islands and different places, and I'm interested in people. And I think once I collected all these pieces, I thought, oh, what am I going to do with this? And I realized that I had a very quintessentially British collection of stories, which is this one here, Hamster, rats, and other stuff going on, which is a collection of stories behind a peep into behind the curtains of British people's lives. But, not mocking necessarily, but things that happened in the late 80s to early 2000s when we lived there. Like the Thatcherite years when people were losing their houses and the economy crashed and went crazy, split up families. And that's one of the reasons why we moved to Cyprus, actually. So there's a story in there about that, about keeping up with the Joneses, crime, playground stories about friendship, youth, adolescence. When there was a couple that the kids have now left, they live in suburban England. they've worked all their lives just to fix the house, improve it. And now the kids have gone and they've just got each other. Now what do? You know, you're facing each other across the table, and it's comical, but also quite heart-wrenching, you know. There's a scene in there where they watch Britain's Got Talent, and he goes off for a walk, and then in the end they, come together. All these. So that's a collection of the British lives, because I realized they were all mixed. So I thought, gosh, I've got a British collection, and the rest were all set around the world, crossing borders. When we used to live in Al-Khobar in Saudi Arabia, we would go to Bahrain for the weekend, right? Because you can have a little drink there, etc. Passing through, they're based on real life experiences. We were almost caught with a bottle of wine, in this sort of thing. So there are stories like that. Ukraine, we'd visited in 2016. That's a super interesting story. The politics there. May I quickly say, sorry if I'm talking too much. Okay. So we were picked up at the airport by an eccentric Uber driver. She was a woman, and but obviously I fictionalized the characters. I made them. I thought, wouldn't it be interesting to compare class distinctions? She was a single mum, very poor but sassy, really bright. Didn't have the means to go to university. Got pregnant young. Her boyfriend, with whom she had a child, he was Nigerian, not to knock races or anything, but this was true. And once his papers came through, he buggered off, excuse my language, back to his home country, left her with a child. So a really interesting Uber driver. And she was meandering around the city post-midnight to get a hamburger for a daughter from McDonald's. So while we were in the car, and I fictionalized, I've said, he's a businessman and Laura is the barrister. They're a couple and they've got their issues. So they're stuck in this car, meandering the city, and they're very polite, the English couple. And anyway, they loosen up and they begin to talk about all sorts of things. The political situation in the Ukraine, the fact that they were waiting to go into Europe. So it's interesting comparing. Back then, I had this story in 2016, and obviously now look what's happened to Ukraine. So it's fascinating. And Obama and his perception. And so the story is split between perspectives. Laura's perspective, who is the barrister, who is wealthy without child, and desperately wants a child, who looks at Gigi, who is the taxi driver, is split perspective. When Gigi speaks, she's looking at, we see her perception of these rich people and then British people. And do you see what I mean? So it's challenging our perceptions of class. Chimamanda, I don't know if you know, Chimamanda Ngozi Adichie, she's an award-winning Nigerian well-known writer. She speaks about the single story. We all have the danger of the single story. We all have a single story. Maybe for us expats and teachers, we travel, we see cultures, it's a little bit different. But if you haven't, you see, oh, well, these people are, like this or like that. I suppose my book is about understanding other worlds and people and social situations and prejudices, all sorts of things, actually, crossing cultural and emotional borders and having that discussion and being open about it. That's what the Foreign Borders book is about, different countries.
So indeed, so education and storytelling can really enhance cultural understanding and empathy, would you say, amongst students?
Yes, I think that. Please repeat that. Sorry, please repeat it.
So this, storytelling in education can really enhance and strengthen cultural understanding and empathy for students.
Yes. And not only that, speaking about your own experiences as well, some of them would be being a little bit embarrassed. I would go into when I was, they don't understand. I would say, oh, when I was young, and I was raised at the back in a fish and chip shop in Southeast London, Dulwich, and they're like, can you do you know what fish and chip shop is? They were, look it up, and they were all on the computers looking up. Right. Oh yeah. And then they say, oh, we got something similar. Yeah, we eat a lot of fish in China. But yeah, that's right, don't you? Right. Okay. So yeah, so I was raised there, and whatever. If we're talking about siblings or just generally family, you know, we had to help my dad, and, you know, and my dad, you know, super strict. Like when I'm in the Middle East, we're talking about marriage and arranged marriages and things. He wouldn't let me go out, you know, didn't he, miss? No. In fact, just as a boy wanted to walk me home, and I was terrified. I shouted at him. I said, oh, no, because he said to me, and I'm writing this in the book as scene, it's hilarious. He said, a boy wanted to walk me home. And then I said, what are you doing? And he said, I'm walking you home. I says, why are you doing that? And he says, because my dad said, I have to walk my girlfriend's home. And I said, well, my dad won't be very happy about that. Anyway, I'll let you read it. But he said, if he catches me with a boy, he'll chop both our heads off and watch them, and he'll kick them like footballs down Winchmore Hill. That's what he said. I mean, he was a great dad, but and very humorous, but, you know, he meant business. He was something. So, you know, just sharing the story, your personal stories, I think, because children can compare, relate, and say, hey, you know, actually, wow, I never knew that, you know, I'm alone. However, at the end of the day, we're all human, and we go through challenges with our families, don't we? With our parents, with our siblings, with all sorts of things. And yeah, the story is mega powerful, personal, and literature, in giving kids a safe space to explore and discuss, I believe.
Indeed. Nitsa, I want to ask you if you can perhaps share your insights into the whole process, and also just the satisfaction of working on your recent project. So 2 published books, Our Foreign Borders and Hamster, Rats and Other Stuff Going On. So they're the published books, and the name of the book coming up is Sea with Salty Water.
Yes, my beloved book, because I've gone back to my roots to talk about my family. Oh, goodness. And you know why I chose that title? Because when I was young, my dad used to sing in the car, and there is a song, a famous song, and it's called Sea with Thalassa Gyarmiron Nero, Sea with salty water, Naseksekhaso Themboro, I can never forget you, right? And it was written, and I didn't realize this, that it was written for the mothers whose sons sailed across salty waters to other lands for better lives, but also with the sort of lamenting kind of call from mums that be kind to my sons over those waters, you know, and when will I see my son again, and all that. And this kind of fits in a little bit with the patriarchy. I don't want to make that a big deal, but yeah, it does. Because anyway, the story is very much going. I begin with 3 North Cross Road was the address. At first, I was going to call it 3 North Cross Road because it's very much about our lives. The scenes are at the beginning, at the back of a fish and chip shop when we're young, and my parents begin their life. They borrow money and they begin, you know, and all the things that go on, the Uplands pub opposite, you know, very British Uplands pub. You know, the second-hand shop where my dad used to buy bits and pieces of stuff off the back of the lorry, very British kind of, you know, working class stuff, and families working together to make a life. But also, with that, I bring in the Cypriot sayings and voices from generations that are in my head as a kid. All these people are long gone now, you know, my parents have passed, many of my aunties and uncles. So luckily, my parents were talkers. You know, my dad used to have, they used to socialize a lot and talk a lot. And even though as kids, you think, oh, it's just mum and dad having a chat, it goes into your psyche. And I was the type of child who perhaps I didn't realize at the time absorbed all this information, right? So we moved from the English scenes to when we went to Cyprus in 1971, 1973, the year just before the invasion, and the build up to it. And I'm actually in the Cyprus section now, which is ironic. It's crazy, isn't it? We've come back, and I'm meeting. I hope this meeting takes place tomorrow. A dear British Cypriot friend who may be able to put me in touch with someone who can put me in touch with someone else, a lady in her 90s who knows a lot about the Eoka War, because my dad's brother was killed in the Oga War. And she used to deliver letters to Griva, the Yeni, and all these politicians. So that's going to be an eye-opener, isn't it? So I'm bang in the middle of that, sea with salty water, moving with the waves of the ocean to Cyprus and back to the UK again as we grow up. It's kind of a coming-of-age story as well. And the love of my parents, I'm exploring as I go along, and really paying homage to them and all the Cypriots who fled post AOGA late 1950s to other lands. Australia, they went to, didn't they? UK, South Africa, you know, and to begin lives. And I just find it fascinating that each generation is so hugely different. Like my parents' village lives, then they went to the UK. Their parents must have thought, wow, they have it good now with fridges, etc. And then we were brought up in the back of a chip shop. And then I'm also explore identity, because my parents only spoke to us in Greek. They really, really hammered that in. So at home we were Greek. I was a good little Greek girl, and outside I'm English with my friends. This dual nationality. And how about now? Girls born in the UK, then we moved to Cyprus. My son was the only one born here. And then we go all over the world. How about their identity? You know, interesting, isn't it? You know, so I'm fascinated by the diaspora, the Greek diaspora. And recently we had the diaspora forum where it was lovely to meet all the Cypriots and hear their stories of being around the world and what they've achieved and what they've done. It's beautiful, beautiful. You know, their identities, South African and American, and incredible, and come together. And so it's a really lively, exciting time now in Cyprus for this. I'm excited about my book. I've just got to finish sorting out this apartment, which was rented, to make it livable. It's getting there. And then I have my desk, and I'm going to get straight into finishing my book, so that it you know, it's a book that I'm going to take my time with and do really well, because it comes from my heart. And I'm learning a lot in the process. And there's a lot of folklore in there. I'm exploring goddess Aphrodite. Obviously, it's the island of beauty and love here. Many, many things. And also, being a linguist, language, you know, Greek Cypriot language is so unique because it's closer to the ancient Greek than modern Greek is, because of all the invasions, Persians, Arabs, the French, Italian, Turkish. So our language is hugely unique. Greeks can't always understand us, Greeks from Greece, but we understand them, because in our schools, we learn this is a debate that I have in the book as well, making our beautiful Cypriot dialect, make it live on and make it a national language here. Not why, so we're colonized by the Greeks from Greece, although I love them to bits. Why can't we celebrate? It's almost shameful in public places to, not shameful, but one puts on an accent, you know, you hear them on the news, politicians, teachers, you know, they drift into this posh, let's call it, my dad used to call it. I have a comical scene in the book. You know, my dad says posh in case they trip over, he says, you know. He says, just say it as it is. It's a very direct language. It's rich and it's beautiful. On Facebook, I'm part of a group which is Cypriots, Turkish and Greek Cypriots. And what we're learning about the language is unbelievable. Oh, we say that in Turkish, we say that in Greek. That's very similar, because that came from the French or the Italian. And then you have added the Greek, you know, suffix on the end, and made it feminine, and that makes sense. In one word, you have all these intermingling cultures. Imagine, that's incredible, isn't it? So a word or a phrase, a word actually, can tell you a whole history about a people and an era. Isn't that fascinating? I find it fascinating. I think it's incredible.
And that is incredible. And it does relate a lot to, I guess, what a lot of international schools we perhaps need to not lose sight of in their international community, particularly in those schools that might have a predominant local group of students, making sure that is respected and part of the school culture.
Exactly. In fact, again, going back to China, you know, I remember our leader would say, don't let them speak Chinese in the classroom, but it was their first language. So you start off, obviously I couldn't speak Mandarin Chinese. So, you know, I learned a few phrases just to get on their level at times, but I would present it in English and then they'd be chatting. And it's very easy to say, hey, you know, you're disrespecting me. And then there was one guy, he bless him, he was, you know, really very, he's a leader, I could tell. And I said, could you help me understand, you know, what and he would say, Miss, no, they're discussing, and they really were. They're like super adults. It's really hard to explain, you know, like you're like an uncle or a granddad, their level of thinking. And they would debate again for ages, and I'm waiting. I said, well, no, miss, let them debate. They're talking about da, 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 da. And then he would translate. He was a bit better at English. So, yes, allowing them to, why not? Why not let them discuss in their own language? Because I mean, English, I always think, you know, in the classroom is the subject of thought, right? Well, all education should be actually. It's the subject of thought, you know. What do you think? Let's engage. You know, it's not about here you are, learn this and answer the silly questions. You know, kids get that comes with time, but kids get much more out of it if they understand and it's coming from within and they are comparing with the outside, comparing and contrasting. Then it comes. Yes, you do all your other bits and bobs, and yes, it's fun to even do traditional things like dictation. And, you know, I remember the first lesson I did because they told me they were a bit unruly, which actually they weren't. They were just lovely kids. But I thought, well, going with, you know, firm, put them in an oval. And they were like, oh, this has never been done before. They were used to coming in and sitting anywhere straight on the laptop. I said, no laptop, oval, sat, dictation. They were like, okay. And it was from Dickens, you know, the beginning of his autobiography. It was the best of times, the worst of times. And there's so much you can do with a tiny paragraph, you know, and they were, oh, what, you know, how, and then they had to peer assess, we put it up. And who is this Dickens dude? Who is he? Right, look it up. And then we put it up. Miss, I found the YouTube up, they went, displayed it. And they were like, is that London? I said, yeah. And they said, oh, it looks so weird. And I said, yeah, well, this is the olden days. And they would have had no electricity. And of course, the streets were dirty. And Dickens was concerned about poverty in kids. Then you've got them talking again about the poverty in their whatever. And then back again. And let's look at it now. You know, well, I've been to London, the Indonesian girl said, because her parents travel. But the others hadn't been anywhere outside their village. I mean, amazing, no? Fascinating. I'd say let go and discuss and explore and let them find out. Give them the onus, the freedom, the confidence to do that. But yeah, I'm a literature lover. I love kids, and you know, talk. I say talk. If anything, they'll just remember in their head all these stories, which will become useful to them later. No.
Yeah. Well, I mean, Nitsa, I want to just sort of finish off by letting people know how they can get in touch with you.
Yes.
We can include some links in the description below. LinkedIn, I'm guessing, would be a good one.
Yes. LinkedIn, I'm on Instagram as well, and also Facebook. Where else? That's it. I have a website which I could share with you, which I'm updating at the moment as well. But yeah, I'm usually more active on those three: Instagram, Facebook, and LinkedIn. LinkedIn's got the information for my books there as well, and the links. But they're on Amazon currently. They're on Amazon, yes. And I'm working on getting them in bookshops in Cyprus as well. But readers can get them on Amazon. The e-version, they're so cheap. I'm not into profit. You know, I did the minimum that Amazon allows because I want to share the stories. I want to share the stories. So yes, ebook, there's paperback and hardback for the foreign borders as well, with bigger print for people who would like bigger print, don't have to wear glasses or whatever. Yeah.
That's wonderful, and we wish you all the best impacting education through storytelling. It's been fantastic to have you on the program, and keep in touch.
Thanks a lot. See you, Dave. Thank you so much. All the best. Bye now.
The Ed Events community is your one-stop shop for all things happening in international education. We're partnering with events organisers, solutions providers and schools so that you can discover professional opportunities by joining for free. You can also connect with colleagues in various community groups. So sign up today by visiting the Ed Events website, ed.events.